Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us. We're in week 10 already of college football, whether you're watching this on Friday evening, Saturday morning. Remember, we have our Saturday live stream. We're going to be live streaming Alabama and LSU and USC and Washington. Make sure you are locked into the channel at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. That's 6:30 p.m. Central. We're going to go live analysis, live bets, taking your questions and comments. It's always fun to hang out and watch the game. And look, a lot of times we kind of tell you what's going to happen next, so that's a lot of fun. People enjoy that. So make sure you check out that live stream, hit that subscribe button. But we got Tim Brando as our guest picker today. Really excited to bring Timmy in, and apparently he's got a couple upsets.
He's got a couple upsets. I can't wait to hear. Obviously, we'll be picking those biggest games. We got our live stream this evening. I'm also interested in Ole Miss, Texas A&M.
There's
not many implications on the Texas A&M side, other than is Jimbo Fisher going to be the head coach there moving forward, and what happens with Bobby Petrino? Is he going to stay or go take a head coaching job elsewhere? But on the Ole Miss side, very much in the SEC West conversation.
Well, without a doubt. Remember last year, they kind of got up halfway, up the hill and it was looking really good. And then that back half of that schedule was pretty heavy, kind of similar to what we're seeing with USC this year, and they kind of fell off a cliff. But I think this Ole Miss team is a little bit different. I think a lot of people make fun of Pete Golding when he's at Alabama. I think it's a lot easier to make fun of people when they're at a place that has a lot of success and screws up every now and then. I mean, he's given up 19 points a game, something like that at Alabama 2 years ago, and they wanted to get rid of him. I think he's done a hell of a job at Ole Miss. He obviously knows the league. Their defense has kept them in some games while keeping that same philosophy of what they do offensively, run the ball to pass. That lane's very effective. A&M's secondary struggled a lot. We talked yesterday on Friday about them having some semblance of a run game just to protect Jackson Darts from a pass rush standpoint. When he does run play action, you have to believe it. You don't want free rushers off the edge. You want boots to work. You want waggles to work, especially in the red zone. I think Ole Miss hits enough explosive plays, but I think A&M puts up a hell of a fight because, like I said yesterday, I think this is Jimbo's last stand. I think if they lose this one, they're on their way to 7-5, and they're going to get rid of them. I really believe that.
Ole Miss goes on the road to Georgia next week. Yeah. Not going to play into this?
I mean, I don't know. I think it'd be different if Lane was used to winning 10 games, but he's not, right? And you look at it last year, I mean, they were 6-0, 7-0, and fell apart down the stretch. They lost to LSU, then won a game, then lost like 3 or 4 straight. But the key, I mean, obviously you look at a game like this, you got to look at the line of scrimmage, right? A lot of people think Lane Kiffin's one of these guys who just wants to air it out. Lane Kiffin wants to run the football. That's what he does. He runs first to open up the pass, and A&M also wants to run the football. So right now, man, if you look at it, I think Jackson Dart's growing. He's growing as a quarterback. We see that week in, week out. I don't think A&M's going to have enough in this game. I just don't believe in Max Johnson that much to really overcome what he's going to go against Ole Miss. And Quinshon Judkins, I don't think he's had a phenomenal year, but I do think he's one of the best backs in the league.
I'm going to say this. It's a lot easier to not overlook somebody when you turn on the tape and you see those things running around from Texas A&M in the front seven, then you look at that offensive line. I think the tape, you know this, David, better than anybody. You turn that tape on, we talk about overlooking by name brand, but when you see those aliens out there running around ripping people's lungs and organs out and leaving them on the field, tends to make you lock in.
So you're 7-1 right now if you're Ole Miss. You have A&M this week. You mentioned you go to Georgia next week. Then you have UL Monroe at home, and you go to Mississippi State. So you need to win. You need to win this game to get to 10 wins because I don't think you're beating Georgia next week at Georgia.
I think you're right. Notre Dame 7-2 at Clemson 4-4. This isn't the game at the beginning of the season we thought that could be a playoff decider, but still interesting because Notre Dame is 7-2. They've been playing a lot better since that blowout loss to Louisville, and then just the Dabo Swinney drama sort of the last couple weeks kind of coming out against the fan base. They're 4-4. You're taking Clemson in this one, right?
Well, I love Clemson to cover. I think you buy this at plus 3.5. I think I'm going to take it at 3.5 as my show bets. But as one of my dogs in Locks, Leans, and Dogs, yes, David, I did take Clemson on the money line because I don't think either one of these teams at the skill position on the outside are good enough to separate from each other with these defenses. So I think it's going to be a tight game towards the end. Cade Klubnik, he's been up and down. He's been what a young quarterback is when you throw him out there and you let him go through the good and the bad. Kept the ball when he shouldn't have kept the ball, obviously, against Miami, and ended up costing him at the end. I think this kid's got some bounce-back DNA in him. I think Clemson stays close enough to be in it in the fourth quarter, and I think there's a lot of similarities in between these two teams outside of the quarterback position. A lot of people would lean to Sam Hartman, Notre Dame to win because of that fact. I'm going to lean toward Clemson being at home to find a way. I think the culture is still good enough at Clemson, and Dabo's got enough of that, enough of that want to still in that locker room. Like we saw him bounce back when they went to play Syracuse after they lost to Florida State and were basically out of the national championship. I do like Clemson in this game.
I think Notre Dame's playing some of their best football they played this year. I mean, you look at the last 2 weeks, you beat a Pitt team 58-7, then you beat a USC team 48-20, and only giving up 20 points says a lot about this defense. I think when you have teams like this who are both pretty damn good on defense in the front seven and your skill positions are lacking. I mean, you lean to where I go to the quarterback and running back position. I mean, you look at Will Shipley, you look at Estime, that's almost a scratch, in my opinion. That's a draw. But then you look at the quarterback position, and this is the reason you brought Sam Hartman in to Notre Dame, is to win games like this, to evenly match games like this. Cade Klubnik still has a long way to go. He's still making mistakes that you can't make as a quarterback, and you do that against this Notre Dame team. Sam Hartman will capitalize on those mistakes. So give me Notre Dame and Sam Hartman. I think they cover. I think you can play this up to a touchdown.
Kind of a fun one out west here. Kind of a fun one out west with a 19th ranked UCLA team, all right, going on the road to play an Arizona school that has now beaten Oregon State and Washington State in back-to-back weeks.
You want to talk about playing some of their best football. I mean, this isn't against, Rosemary and the land of pissed-off baby State. This is legitimate competition that Jed's doing this to. I think he's about to get an even bigger job, even though I know Arizona loves him, and Arizona's not a small school, but I would not be shocked to see somebody that's a bigger football school pick up Jedd Fisch if he continues to do this. They've also got a great problem, and you got two quarterbacks that have had success. One got hurt. Fafita came in and has been fantastic. So who do you play? It's a great problem to have as a head coach. You'd sure as hell much rather have that one than having two guys that can't play. Kind of see what Auburn's been through this year, even though it seems like Peyton Thorne kind of figured it out last week. But that may be more about Mississippi State than anything else. Look, UCLA, Garbers is back at quarterback. They went with Dante Moore, who struggled as a young guy. It's tough. He still needs more time. I think Dante's going to be fine. But going on the road, playing this game at home, it's huge for Arizona because UCLA has been a defensive team. They've been a team that has won with defense, with ball control, which is weird to see with Chip Kelly. I do know he trusts Garbers a little bit more. But why would I not take Arizona in this game at home with the way they're playing? I mean, if we're going to look here and say, all right, well, we're not going to treat week one like we're treating week 8 when we look at a team. Teams get better, teams get worse. No team stays the same. I think Arizona's gotten better. I think UCLA's fallen off a little bit. Give me Jed to keep on fishing at home.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad pick. This Arizona is a really good football team, but I think UCLA is going to control the line of scrimmage up front. I think they're going to sit on the ball as long as they can. I think the Steele kid's he's a nice piece. He's a good back, and I think Garbers has came in and looked nice. Close. But give me UCLA.
It's going to be a fun weekend of football, boys.
It is. Another great slate. It's absolutely rolling through. I mean, we're already at LSU Bama.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
Timmy B.
But Tim Brando, y'all know who we're taking. Let's see who Timmy B's taking in Week 10, a full plate of college football. Our friend from Fox Sports, Tim Brando, is joining us this morning on Flamin' Dragon Friday. Timmy B, also known as Himmy B in some circles. What's up, my friend? Sorry, we got a little emotional there for a second.
Voila. Okay. How can you not like a guy that went to a directional school? Come on.
I know, right?
Nice.
Eastern Illinois.
Look, facts don't care about your feelings, Tim.
He's a Rolling Meadows, Illinois.
University, Eastern Illinois.
Georgia Southern.
I mean,
I'm all for directional schools. I wish that my old school had not settled for a hyphen. They were perfect as a directional. Northeast Louisiana versus, as Jim Valvano said, always play a state, not a portion of a state. If you lose to a portion of a state, that'll crumble a career.
That's a hilarious way to look at it. That is. Jimmy V, speaking of Jimmy V, we got college basketball coming up.
Sure do.
Tim, I got to ask you, we're gonna get into our game picks here in a little bit. There's some games on the periphery that I kind of find very, very interesting. And, one of them is this Penn State-Maryland game. A little bit. I don't think enough people are talking about this. I know Maryland's been beat up. I know there's been a couple injuries. But when I look at this Penn State team and I look at this Maryland defense, not that Maryland defense is, Alcatraz or the Steel Curtain or they're going to shut everybody down, but Penn State struggles to hit any explosive plays. Drew Aller's coming off a game where it looked like they tried to hit some down the field against Indiana and the chemistry wasn't there. They're going on the road. I mean, this is a little bit sneaky now.
It is. In the past, when we've had these moments, though, with Penn State and Maryland, the Nittany Lions have hammered them. I remember we had Spencer and I went in one year. They were 3-0 for the first time in forever. Their best receiver was on special teams, broke his leg on a return, and it went downhill. Game got a big number because it was on a Thursday night. But Penn State just owned them. That game was played at Bird Stadium. But you're right. Drew Aller is not the issue. The offense is. They need to. The scheme doesn't fit the quarterback, and I think that James Franklin, who I respect, by the way, he's lost a lot of big games with the top tier opponents. But the truth is, he has not had the offensive coordinator he's needed really since Joe Moorhead left to go to Mississippi State as a head coach. After that 15 season, now he had Saquon Barkley and a lot of other factors, but still, this is a Maryland team that is dangerous because of their explosives. The potential of going the distance on a play. Penn State, hell, they're having troubles getting first downs. So yeah, it's sneaky good, especially with all the other games that are out there. Just a little bit like the Big Ten's version of Georgia and Missouri this week. A lot of people are overlooking that game because of LSU and Alabama. And it's not necessarily on the radar quite as much. But you're right. I think this is a carnage weekend. I think we're going to begin November the way we ended October with a lot of surprises. I really do, and that could be one of them.
Yeah, well, the more I look at Penn State, the more I see a little bit sexier Iowa. But Timmy B, the college football playoff rankings came out, debuted, this week, and I talked about it. I don't think there is a criteria. I mean, if that's the case, that there wouldn't be nearly as many contradictions. My first thing to you, and I think you and David Cohen also on the Michigan thing have been so astute and done a really good job of actually, exposing what's really going on kind of underneath the surface. And I'm going to let him get to that. But who do you think is the number one team in the country? And if we're not going to have any sort of criteria or formula, why not just release the college football playoff rankings on the last week or whenever the conference championship's done? Because there's no, I know why, because it's PR and it's money and we talk about it, but there's no point to it's a hamster wheel. Who's number one in the country in your opinion?
Michigan. It's a television show, okay, and they've got advertisers, so they need to get that Dr. Pepper money in. That's what that's what it's all about. I have been sympathetic to the plight of Reese Davis having to do that dog and pony show since it began. And attempting to make it like the NCAA Selection Sunday show, which it's not. It makes it difficult on the guys doing it. But the bottom line is it's brand names at the end. We all know that. But they're going to make it look good early. And I predicted Ohio State would be number one because it's easy to apply strength of schedule at the beginning. And they applied it with Ohio State, chose not to apply it with Florida State. But, they're in the top four. So Seminoles fans just, pump the brakes. You're going to be fine as long as you win out. But nothing really surprising in my mind came out. I will say this. I was encouraged to see Tulane be ranked where they were ahead of Air Force. And I'll tell you why. Because Tulane played an Ole Miss team that I think everyone now would have to agree is pretty good, really good out of the SEC. They can't beat Bama because Lane, for whatever reason, spits the bit every time he's on the opposite side of the coach who gave him, a second chance. And that's happened with him every time he's played against Saban. But that Ole Miss team is really good. Their defense is a lot better. I think you'd have to say that. And Tulane really went up and down the field against them with a backup quarterback. Pratt did not play in that game. And they've handled everybody in their league, including Memphis at Memphis, who's also not bad. And that schedule has been better than the one Air Force played, particularly in the non-con. Now, listen, I love Troy, and I think that, they deserve to be my fly in the ointment, but I think Tulane, as a group of 16, still deserves to be ranked higher. But that's the back end that nobody really notices except guys like us, the nerds of college football, like we all are.
For sure.
We talked about the Buckeyes getting that top ranking. They go on the road this weekend to Rutgers, which typically wouldn't be a game we would talk about that much. But Rutgers, 6-2 here with their only losses at Michigan, at Wisconsin. Greg Schiano's got figured out.
The only one. He's the only one who can do it at Rutgers.
I know. And
he's the only
this
one.
This is like the worst possible game you would want if you're a Buckeyes fan after being ranked number one. Because if you go and you have a blowout win, which is certainly possible here, everyone's going to say, yeah, you beat Rutgers. Who cares? And bring up this, the the joke of a strength of schedule. But if you go and you win this on the last possession by 3 points, everyone's going to say, see, you shouldn't have been ranked number 1, whereas Rutgers is kind of a sneaky good team. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, there's a lot of that in the Big Ten. People are raining on it because it has been so bad on the western side. And I'm going to see Nebraska try to get bowl eligible here in East Lansing against Michigan State, a team that, has been in trouble ever since I left. And apparently since Mr. Stallion left the sidelines, allegedly, that was our game too. How about that? Spencer and I do all these games that wind up in a court of law at some point.
Yeah. They're like,
you see, here's the video evidence.
Yeah, you're going to be subpoenaed. You're going to be subpoenaed halfway through the year.
Yeah. Lawyers may be in touch for a deposition anytime soon.
That's exactly right.
But yeah, Rutgers is better than anybody would ever possibly think. And you could kind of forget about them, just like people forgot about Nebraska after they started out 0-3. And now Matt Rule is doing what he always does. Greg Schiano is perfect for that job in Piscataway. I mean, he is. And he really should send a thank you card to Clay Travis for putting together those letters in Tennessee to keep him from getting the job in Knoxville.
Yeah,
because he's probably better off coaching in New Jersey. It looks like a job that's absolutely perfect for him. That's a scary game for Ohio State. The Buckeyes Harrison is carrying them. And they have a substandard by – they have the same problem really Alabama has at the mission critical position. They don't have the same kind of quarterback that, can have your back when everything else is failing. To this point, the gift should be noted. Send all your thank you notes to Notre Dame and Coach Freeman for having that meltdown at the end of the game. Otherwise, Ohio State wouldn't be where they are, which is number one.
Well, Tim, you and I talked a little bit about how there's a full court media press right now going on to get this, rookie Big Ten commissioner Tony Petitti to rule in some way or another against Michigan and sort of punish them here before we've even gotten any of the evidence or notice of allegations or wrongdoing from the NCAA. How do you think this will play out, and how should it play out?
It's going to play out the way it always plays out, David, in situations like this, as it did. And I made the comparison, as you know, on social media to the circumstances surrounding Cam Newton, which, Jake, you can certainly identify with.
Yeah.
You're not so young that you don't remember 2010. I know you do.
I think about it every morning when I wake up.
And no, I even said in the prepared tweet, albeit a long one, it was going to take more than 144 characters to get it out. But when you're trying to supply context, some meat to your take, it's going to take a little bit longer. The reality is, Mike Slive, the commissioner at that time of the SEC, and a former judge who used to hear cases for the NCAA, including Bruce Pearls, after he was let go at Tennessee for the barbecue, you might recall.
Hallelujah.
People thought Mike was going to come down on Auburn because he was an NCAA prototype, and he was going to do what, quote unquote, any judge would do. No, he didn't do that because he served at the pleasure of the presidents of the universities. And as a member institution, he was going to do his best to protect Auburn's opportunity, which was right in front of them. Mm-hmm. And you didn't hear boo from Gene Chizik that entire last month of the season. Everybody kept their mouths shut. He worked out a 24-hour stipulation with the NCAA legally for eligibility before the Georgia game that Auburn played. And then no one said anything after the Iron Bowl when they came from, a 23-0 score, I think at one point, to win 24-23. Yeah. And they win a national championship. And this is a similar situation here for Tony Petitti, albeit with a competitive advantage at work with alleged spying. Until the notice of allegations is sent to Michigan, and right now it hasn't been, then nothing's going to happen. They have 90 days to respond legally as a university, as an institution. And to say that the Big Ten commissioner is just going to jump right in because it's within his jurisdiction, that part is true. But the ADs and coaches getting on a telephone with a group of scribes saying how upset they are is not going to boggle the mind of the commissioner of the Big Ten, because he serves at the pleasure of the presidents of the universities. And that's the way it is right now. And as long as college football allows the antiquated NCAA to play this role of, a police that has been stripped down to the bare minimum, like we have with a lot of DAs across this country. They can't get anything done, and when they do get something done, the district attorneys let the guys free. Well, it's a similar story here in sports. Mm-hmm. As long as the NCAA, a kangaroo court, who really should hire the very writers they're leaking these stories to, because they do a better job than they do in enforcement, nothing's going to get done. Mm. And that's just the bottom line. They can crow all they want at other schools in the Big Ten, but that's the way this is going to be. I sincerely hope that this sends a message, though, to not just to Commissioner Petitti, but to all the other commissioners in college football, that the NCAA is not their friend. Okay, they are the last people that should be in charge of stories like this. They need to self-govern, and they need to take control of college football so we can stay away from this kind of mess in the month of November and deal with the realities of what's being done on the field. Let's talk about the blanking game, shall we? Not about this kind of stuff, and let fandom rule and take over and waste your time and mine having to talk about it when we got a weekend like this one. But that's just what we have traditionally seen that done where college football is concerned.
Yeah. Amen.
Without a doubt.
100%. Something I want to talk about that, and this hurts my heart to even talk about it. Arkansas Razorbacks, you're going to Florida this week. I mean, you're 2-6 and you're 0-5 in conference.
Lost 6 in a row, I think.
If they lose this one, I mean, wins enough is enough if you're an Arkansas fan. And how long does Sam last?
I like him, and I think he'll be a good coach, possibly as a head coach someplace else. But it's already hard to recruit to Arkansas. It always has been. I said this when they got into the SEC. I thought from a territorial standpoint, they would have been better off being in the Big 12 rather than the Southeastern Conference. A lot of their fans, I think, that are close to my age or maybe a few years younger, feel similarly, but they couldn't turn down the revenue. South Carolina is by far and away geographically in a much better situation than Arkansas was when they were brought in 92. And let's not forget, fellas, they wouldn't have gotten in the league likely if Bobby Bowden had said yes to the SEC's offer to come in. But Bobby was smart enough to stay put because he knew he could win more national championships.
For sure.
Having to play Florida at the end of the year by staying in the ACC. They're going to have to make a change. And it's unfortunate because he's a good man and a good coach. And I think he fits really well in Fayetteville. But, it's about winning. And they got to find somebody to shake it up and be able to bring in the kind of skilled people to match guys like Jefferson, who really is a great quarterback. It's a shame he's not had enough around him, to help him be the kind of quarterback that he really could be. He's got a lot of talent. He almost single-handedly won that Alabama.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
If you watch the second half, you know what I'm talking about.
For sure. I mean, Cage seems like he's been there forever. It'll be interesting to see if he gets in the transfer portal. But if Sam Pittman does get fired as a head football coach, they should make him like the mayor of Fayetteville or something.
Everyone loves it.
Like they'd be like perfect for that. But speaking about somebody that always shakes it up and in a good way, our buddy Tim Brando. Timmy B, tell everybody where you're at this weekend.
Nebraska, Michigan State. I'll tell you, the good part about this is we've got storylines. As I said, Matt Rule kind of doing it the way he did it at Baylor, right? Let's dumb down the offense, go I formation, ask our quarterback to throw it a dozen times, play fast, which is okay with me, so I can make a 6 o'clock flight out of Detroit and get home on Saturday night and have a chance to watch LSU upset Alabama, which I believe will happen.
Oh, wow. All right, Timmy B. Let's you want to get to these picks, David?
These games?
That's a great segue.
All right, let's do it. Here we got just like you talked about earlier, Missouri 7-1 goes to Georgia 8-0. Who you got winning this one, Jay?
And I've got Georgia. Look, I think Missouri's going to be able to score some. Luther Burden's going to make a couple plays. I just don't think they'll get the run game going. Brady Cook's going to have to throw them to win it. I think Georgia, just with gravity and going up against the Missouri pass defense that I just do not trust at all. I think Georgia's continuing to get better. They've showed you they're a mature team. They're winning while developing, which is about the scariest thing that could possibly be happening to everybody out in the rest of college football. Give me Georgia. It's a lot of points, but I think Georgia may cover this 15.
Yeah, Georgia's my national champion, and that's not changing right now. Let's give a lot of credit to Eli drinking the boys. I mean, you're walking in 7-1
yeah.
on the road. You're having a great year. But, I mean, sooner or later, you got to fight the boss, and that's this weekend, and I'm taking the boss.
Tim?
I like Missouri to cover for sure.
Yeah.
I think they can do what LSU can do, and that is score, which will force Georgia to have to score more than they're comfortable scoring, particularly without Brock Bowers. Georgia has improved. I think Beck, as a quarterback, especially has in the last couple of weeks. They were sort of coaching around him back when they played Auburn. That I can't get that game out of my mind, fellas.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't. And without Bowers, I think that's going to be the question here. Who are the playmakers if you get into a scoring fest, which I think Drinkwood's team can potentially do that to them. So I give Missouri a slight chance of doing to Georgia what LSU, I believe, will do to Alabama.
All right, we're going to put you down for Missouri on that one then. I don't know how you
I got them covering for sure.
Yeah.
Right, I don't just after what I saw Georgia do to Florida in a rivalry game without Brock Bowers, I'm going to take the Bulldogs as well. I don't know how you can't roll with them at this point. But Washington 8-0 goes to USC 7-2. Things have fallen off the rails a little bit. Who are you taking in this one?
Yeah, I'm taking the over. No, I'm gonna take Washington. I think they cover as well. Listen, USC, that they are who we thought they were. I think Caleb Williams is going to show up because he knows it's a big game. Hadn't played great over the past couple weeks. I don't trust Washington's defense to be able to not shut USC down, but stop them enough to where this game is comfortable for them halfway through the third quarter. I do think they score a kind of solidifying touchdown to go up double digits late. Caleb Williams will score, but Washington will get a first down, need the clock out. Give me Washington.
Lincoln Riley's same record as Clay Helton through 22 games. How about that?
Surprise, you're just all about the Kevin Sumlin.
Surprise. I mean, look, USC is not a good football team, in my opinion. They're not. They got some weapons on offense. You have Caleb Williams, but I'm not going to pick a guy who paints his nails and wants 20% of the Bears. Give me Washington, BDE, BPE, Big Penix energy. I think they win. I'm planning up to double digits.
Tim, we talked all offseason. What kind of USC are we going to get, especially on the defensive side of the ball? Now they're going to host an undefeated Washington team. Who are you taking?
Well, I had Washington last week, and you saw what happened with Stanford, almost taking them down in what it was an incredible performance by Ashton Daniels, their quarterback, against Penix, who wasn't completely well. They had a little bit of a flu bug that went through their program after the game. I guess they got a little bit sick looking at the tape of the game that they had played the week prior against Arizona State.
It'll do that to you.
They've got the best trio of receivers on one team, I think, in the country. And so Penix is going to make enough plays to win even when they have a bad game. To the defensive point, which I think you're right, they yield a lot of yards. But in the scoring zone, I think they're in the top 10 in scoring defense. So they've done a great job inside the red zone. USC will struggle if they get the ball inside the 15 a lot. But USC will score with explosives, as you know. Caleb just makes wild plays, finding those receivers, whether it's Zachariah Branch or Singer or whoever. So USC will get the number up, take the over, and I would tell you Washington will find a way to cover because USC's defense is deplorable.
Well, Washington has not looked the same since they beat Oregon, but the last four in the stretch here, USC, Utah, Oregon State, and Washington State for the Huskies. I mean, incredible. They got to figure it out now. I'm going to ride with Washington. That was my college football playoff team. I'm going to stick with them. All right, we got Kansas State goes to Texas, Timmy B. Kansas State's won their last three since losing at Oklahoma State. Malik Murphy came in for Texas. That was the game that you had there we were talking about before you called that game against Houston. All right, Jake, Texas hosting Kansas State. Who you got?
You know, I always like to go with my gut on these in these situations.
Do it.
And Kansas State right now, I mean, they're playing out of their minds the past couple weeks. Will Howard looks healthy. I love the way that Kleiman, the identity of that team, I think it travels. But I picked Texas to make the college football playoff. Still got a chance. You know, you got that one loss to Oklahoma. Malik Murphy looked a little bit better in the pocket than what I thought he would last week. I think this game is back and forth. I think this game is actually going to be more high scoring than what people think. but I think Texas finds a way in overtime, David. They survive this one in overtime.
Wow.
Give me Texas.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dragon?
Oh, this game's an interesting game, but the more I look at it, the more I dislike Texas. Kansas State's playing good football right now. They're playing the best football they've played all year. I agree with that. But I still think, Jonathan Brooks, I think up front is where Texas is going to win this game. I don't think Kansas State is athletic on defenses. They've been in the past years. Howard's a great piece of quarterback. I know that. But I think the experience of Texas and the athleticism of Texas is going to be the difference. So give me Texas. Give me Texas to cover.
Tim?
I'd really love to see Texas keep this up. Potentially, Spencer and I might have the TCU game next week in Fort Worth. But I got to tell you, when I talk of carnage in November, I think the first example of it is going to happen in the Big 12 this week. Mm-hmm. Kansas State is morphing into what climbing teams always are.
Yeah.
And they were disappointing early. They were. That Missouri loss, I think, set them back. It also propelled Missouri to where they are in a breakthrough season for Drink. But Kansas State now is a very dangerous team, as is Oklahoma State. Think about the reclamation project that K-State has done since the game with that they lost to Missouri, and also what Gundy has done since the loss to South Alabama, of all people. I mean, it's incredible. And I think that we could see two big-time teams nuked this week in the Big 12. K-State over Texas and Oklahoma State in a world of when you look at that story with the Cowboys and what they're doing, that could be – those two games are just, to me, where the cannibalization of the top of some of these conferences takes place.
Well, Kansas State is the defending champs in the conference, and that was my conference championship matchup this year, K-State and Texas. The way Texas has been going, I agree with you guys over here. I'm going to take Texas in this one. You mentioned it. Let's go to Bedlam. What else needs to be said? Could be the last edition of Oklahoma and Oklahoma State we see. Who you taking?
I tell you what.
I see that look in your eye.
Right when if he pauses,
I see that look in your eye.
If he pauses a second before, he's going with the dog.
No. Look, I'm from a place in a state where we're not the main school.
Mm-hmm.
What?
From Auburn.
We're not?
Right? Alabama's the state school. All right. Deep down in my heart, you know how I feel.
Yeah.
Bunch
of cheetahs.
But the one thing that Alabama's not doing, they're not leaving to go to greener pastures. They're not leaving the woman they've been with for 9 years to go hang out with Selena Gomez on a yacht with Klay Thompson. All right, like Oklahoma's doing to Oklahoma State. Mm-hmm. There's something personal about it.
Yeah.
There's always, what did Rick Moranis say on Little Giants? There's always that one time, right? You don't have to beat them every time, but there's that one time. This is that one time. They're leaving. They think they're better than you. They think they're better than you because they're Oklahoma and you're Oklahoma State. You're in Stillwater, they're in Norman. They're the ones with all the tradition. They're the ones that everybody thinks about when you go to the Midwest. Oh, you see that OU Boomer Sooner? You don't think a lot. Maybe T. Boone Pickens. Maybe, hey, y'all are a little rich. Maybe y'all got a little walking around money, but you're still little brother. But you know what? It's personal this week, to quote a certain coach. It's personal because this may be the last shot you got at him, and it's at home. You always remember that one time you beat Dad in the driveway, that first time. All right, I'll Rick Moranis this whole thing. All right, it's a better matchup than the Little Giants had against the Cowboys. I'm not worried about Spike running around out there. But give me Oklahoma State to send them on their way out. 2 losses for Oklahoma. Let's go.
Wow.
Poke them.
Wow.
That's right.
Okay.
Poke them.
Oklahoma does think they're better than Oklahoma. You know why?
Because they are.
Because they are better than Oklahoma State. All right? You think this Oklahoma team, after that dog water performance last week against Kansas, is going to come out here and a lot of people say crap the bed in this game?
Like they did after the UCF performance?
Dylan Gabriel, the Hawaiian Warrior, coming out, hey, hi, Jeff Levy, he's pissed about a lot of things. Apparently 33 is not enough. All right? So now he's going to drop a 50-piece. And look, Bauman, you got to prove it to me. You got to prove it to me. You can't, look, we're going to stack the box. You can say hi and hand it to Ollie, whatever his name is.
Ollie Gordon?
Gordon the 7th.
Get his name right.
As many times as you want. But Oklahoma's a playoff football team, boys. They're a playoff football team, and they're going to show it Saturday. Boomer Sooner, baby.
Tim, you going with the Cowboys here?
I've had the good fortune of calling this game a few times. Baker Mayfield's last game, the last Big 12 championship one on Sooner soil when they beat Oklahoma State. And Gundy had a really good team that year, really good team. He has coached tight through the years in that game. I think you'd have to say among active coaches, Mike Gundy has probably been as successful with a program that's not, quote unquote, considered elite over the last 20 years, 2 decades, than just about any coach. But his record is awful against OU. Something about being little brother all those years. I mean, even as a player coming out, he wasn't Troy Aikman, who was the gifted quarterback who came out. He was part of that high school class going into college football. And I covered him with Barry Sanders and Garrett Limerick and Hartley Dykes as a player when he was with Pat Jones. Oklahoma State, though, this time really has some legitimate pay to deliver to Big Brother here. Mm-hmm. And I think the Cowboys with Ali Oxenfree they are going to run really well against this Oklahoma defense. And the Sooners' skilled people, fellas, they got exposed. Kansas had better receivers than Oklahoma. Dylan Gabriel didn't get the same kind of help that Bean got. And Bean struggled through some picks. I mean, he was struggling. And you guys know I picked Kansas to beat OU, and they did. Oklahoma State's going to win this game. And the Big 12, at least for this year, will be blown up. Wow. They'll be out of the college football playoffs.
Ali gets north.
Ali Oxenfree.
I can't wait for this one. I hope we're in for a good ball game. Dylan Gabriel, quarterback draw, touchdown, and in the second overtime to win it for Oklahoma. That's what I'm going with. Last one, Alabama is going to host LSU. Once again, this edition could decide the SEC West. Who are you going to take?
It's a weird edition because it feels like it's going to be a lot of points. LSU defensively, it's been one of the biggest question marks all year. Everybody keeps talking about the strength for strength, which I get it. LSU's offense versus Alabama's defense. I think this game is going to come down to the weakness versus the weakness. Can Alabama's offense put 4 quarters together against a defense that's beat up and has been struggling? How much confidence do they really have? But we know the personnel's there. They just got to play like it. And then you look at LSU defensively. Can you hold Alabama to field goals in the red zone? I think both teams are going to be able to move the ball in between the 20s. We talked about Washington's red zone defense. I think that's what it's going to come down to. It's LSU's a very popular pick this week. I do think they have the best offense in the country. I think Jaden Daniels playing the best out of any quarterback in the country right now. I think their biggest strength is their versatility. But this Alabama team's found a way to hit explosive plays in crucial moments. I don't trust LSU's defense. The reason I don't trust them isn't just because they give up explosive plays, that I think Alabama's going to be able to run the ball and limit the amount of possessions that LSU gets in the second half, which means LSU's going to have to be perfect. And being perfect against this talent that Alabama has on defense is very, very hard. If anybody can do it, it's this offense and Jaden Daniels and what Mike Denbrock's doing and what they have on the outside and what they have up front. But I think Alabama finds a way, like they have all year outside of the Texas game, to sneak out of this one, to just sneak out of it. Give me Bama.
It's a good pick, man. You got to look at this Alabama team right now. Milroe's playing some of his best football. He's came along in a couple of weeks. Had Alabama going 11-1 and making it in the playoffs. I mean, McClendon's coming on. You're getting healthy. Big game Burton. I mean, this game's at home. And I think you're right, Jake. I think LSU has to play perfect to win this game, especially not perfect on the defensive side, but they need to create turnovers. But if there's one man that you send out to protect the city at the end of the day, and I think playing the best football in college football right now at the quarterback position, that's Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
All right? We've seen what this kid does on a daily basis on a Saturday against the Alabama defense that's really good, but do make mistakes, still penalized football team. I think this LSU football team comes in and makes a statement Saturday. I think Jaden Daniels throws for 300-plus and 60-plus on the ground. I think Malik Neighbors is one of the best receivers in the nation. And I think LSU, let's go, Jay LeBlanc, LSU pulls off the win Saturday in Bryant-Denny. Ride it down, baby.
Tim, you riding with him?
Yeah, I like LSU in this game, and I like them largely because I know it's a money game for Neighbors and for Daniels. Okay, regardless of, people are talking about can they be a viable 2-loss team if they represent the West again and get a shot at Georgia. I don't care about any of that. What I care about is what I believe in the hearts of these players matters, and that extra week definitely gives that defense. We hear so much about how banged up the secondary is, and they weren't good before they got injured. Okay, so you're right, Jake. They are going to struggle. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But Milroe is going to have to make plays in the passing game. I do think that LSU's defense is now going to free up Perkins to make plays. If their defensive front can get any push whatsoever, and really follow a blueprint shown by Texas. You know, Alabama's not been asked to score points to win because the coaches that have gone against them that had the capability and the arsenal to beat them, Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M, Josh Heupel at Tennessee, coached scared in the second half. They spit the bit against the GOAT. Brian Kelly is every bit as arrogant as Saban. And I think he's going to push the pedal to the metal. He's going to allow Denbrock to do what he needs to do. And just, there's no pressure here on LSU. They're not expected this year with this team and with that awful defense. It's a historically bad LSU defense. So just wing it. Go out there and play. And I think that pressure will make a pipe bust. And when you hear the Alabama faithful, roll tide, you know, we're going to beat LSU. We own them. It's payback. Nobody beat Saban twice. Wait a minute. Hang on. Les Miles did in 2010 and 11. You think Les Miles has the pedigree of Brian Kelly? I think Brian is every bit as arrogant as the GOAT. I think they go in there, they get the job done. Daniels makes plays, solidifies himself as a guy that's going to go first among all quarterbacks in the draft. Neighbors will go first among all receivers in the draft. And LSU beats Alabama. And all those folks calling Paul will be so upset.
My gut tells me Jaden Daniels will ball. My gut tells me he can go in there and put up points, but my 3 decades of experience with football tells me to take the combination of the better defense, the home field advantage, and Nick Saban. I'm going to ride with Alabama, 33-30.
Hey, I like that. Good. That means the overhits. Timmy B, I know we kept you overtime. You're so gracious with your time with us, my friend. Thanks so much. And y'all go keep doing what you're doing. I love watching. I watch every Saturday. Nebraska, Michigan State ought to be an interesting one.
And next week we'll probably be back in the Big 12 after it's been nuked. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I hope I'm wrong because I'd love to see Sark and Texas get it done. I made them. I think that I think Kansas State's dangerous though. I just do.
Yeah.
I hope I get to see you guys in the near future though.
Of course, Timmy B. Can't wait.
Amen.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. The legend, the Hall of Famer.
That was awesome.
Tim Brando.